Leadership. I am super excited today because we have a powerhouse woman in the house, and her name is Lauren Griffith. And we met because we both signed up for a national mastermind with our business coach. And it's a year-long process. We went through that together last year. We had some parallels even in our personal life. And then we decided to do that again this year. And we were just in Tucson, Arizona, and we're discussing some different things and had a great discussion on the way to the airport. And we were talking, and I said, I want to have you on my podcast to talk about leadership and health and how that works. And Lauren is a fitness and wellness expert based out of San Diego. She works with people across the globe. She has a fantastic app and does things all over the place. And I'm going to let her tell a little bit more about that. So Lauren, introduce yourself to the listeners and let's talk about leadership.
Oh, yes, David. Thank you so much for having me. And what an honor to be on your podcast. I reside in San Diego, as you said, and I empower and work with women to lead their best lives through fitness. As you touched on, I do have an app where people can follow my workouts around the world. But in addition, I work with clients one-on-one, in person, over Zoom, and help them not only with their transformation on the outside through fitness, but also we go and dive deep in the mindset as well to really set them up for success, whether they're with me or they're on their own.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, Lauren? People show up the same way, right? Like I do mindset work from a business consulting perspective. You do mindset work when it comes to fitness. And I'm a firm believer that where we show up in one area of our life, we show up in all areas, right?
Absolutely.
And so tell me, like, as you think about what you're doing, I want to talk a little bit about COVID before we go too much further, because you're a leader in your industry and you did some unique things this year too to pivot. And I don't know about you, but it seems like we've pivoted 10 times this year. But you also, with your in-person, those types of things, have had to pivot, especially being in California. Talk a little bit about that. How did you lead your industry in that?
Well, what happened was when we first went into lockdown and we were home, I at the time was teaching for a studio in my area. So I used to 6 days a week show up in person, lead anything from yoga classes to boot camps to bar classes. It's a variety of different fitness classes, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I love the human connection and being a person. I really, it's been a part of what I've been doing for many years. But when we came home, we switched everything virtually. So it was this jumping into this whole new rhythm of doing business and connecting with people over media. And we had to throw ourselves in it really quickly because people were in need and they wanted to continue to exercise. So it was, it was a fun process. I mean, in all honesty, as much as it was, we were in a shifting of our time, it was a really fun time because getting into the online virtual space was something that's always been sitting in the back of my mind, but either taking that initiative or finding the time to carve out of my schedule to do it hadn't happened. So immediately was throwing myself into doing Instagram lives, talking to my phone, motivating people virtually. It was a whole new experience, but it was actually a lot of fun. And I felt really good being able to still connect with people on a daily basis, even though I was doing it in my dining room.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I bet too, it opened up a market for you because, as you said, you were teaching in a studio and now you can reach people all over. So when you think about, you talked about working in mindset, what are some of the things that you see as, themes that people tend to have? And what kind of advice would you give to people? Because my assumption would be that there's probably top one or two themes that you see that come out with women. And I'm sure men probably have some of this too. And so what are those themes and what would be advice to the leaders listening to this podcast?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. I work with a variety of clients and everyone has a different story. But, the one thing, again, kind of thinking like the parallels, even from the business side of the world, is making the time, right? So one of the biggest ones I hear is, I don't have the time, right? I don't have the time. I am a career woman. I'm a mom, right? My days fly by and the weeks fly by. And how did I gain 15 pounds, right? Like what happened, right? But it's, what I always go back to is, it's the consistency, right? We've got to, first of all, we need to make the time, right? So the desire has to be there, first of all, to want to change, right? Because if you do not have that strong desire that you want to make a difference, you want to change, sometimes it's for health reasons, sometimes it's for the physical body and how people want to show up, whether they are they do presentations, or they're a leader and they need to be in front of people, whatever that is. It's getting into the simplicity of how do we create a new habit? How do we plan ahead? So one of the things I suggest to my clients is, on a Sunday, just sit down, look at your week, right? Maybe your weeks are the same every week. Maybe your weeks vary day to day, but really map out, just like you would schedule a business meeting, schedule your workouts, right?
Have a meeting with your personal trainer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so whether you're working out on your own, maybe you need a little bit more hand holding. So working with a personal trainer is a great option as well, because then you have someone holding you accountable, or even finding a friend, right? So whether it's a friend, whether it's a colleague, whether it's your spouse, getting someone else that has that same vision or desire with you on board is another way to help you stay accountable.
Fantastic. Well, I know too, with accountability, that you currently are doing a 21-day challenge. Tell us about that and what led you to do this challenge through your app.
Yeah, so the 21-day challenge, I came up with the idea because it's, on average, can take 21 to 28 days to form a new habit, right? So I thought, what would be a way to get people moving without making it extremely difficult, but just move for 30 minutes a day, right?
Yeah.
It seems like something we can do, whether you want to walk, whether you want to run, whether you want to do one of that, I have all sorts of workouts on my app that people can participate in. So I came up with this idea, I rolled it out, and it's really fun because when people do their workouts, I can see it. It gives me a reminder right on my phone through the app. So I can see that people are participating, and I can see they're building that muscle to stay accountable. And for some, it was something that they were already doing. For others, it's like forming a brand new habit. But what I love about it is sometimes we make things really complex, right? We say, okay, I'm going to work out an hour a day, or I'm going to do this many push-ups, or I'm going to do this long of a run. Like, we create all these, really challenging things, but maybe we're starting off from, we haven't been doing any exercise. So we're setting this bar for ourselves to become this like super, fit person within a week. So sometimes,
come on, that doesn't happen, Lauren.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right. But it's just like anything, right? I work with women post-pregnancy, for example, and it takes 9+ months to put on, however much weight they put on. And so it's the same thing if we're working in the reverse. It's going to take realistically 9+ months to get back, fully. Now, some people do sooner, some people it takes longer, but we have to set realistic expectations, because if we set things too far outside of reach, but we're more likely to not even want to do it at all.
Yeah. And you know what, Lauren, it's so interesting as we talk, because there's like so many things as you work with people from a wellness and fitness perspective that are the same habits and the same things that successful leaders do, right? Consistency. You were talking about, being consistent, about planning ahead. I don't know too many leaders out there that don't take a look at their calendars on Sunday and plan for the week ahead. Or if they're a project manager, even looking at months ahead, and having other people do it with you as a team. And even like looking at what you were just talking about, there's so many parallels between leadership and it's just interesting to me how that fits together. So when you think about leadership and you think about, you've had to grow as a leader because you are a leading expert in your field now. And that doesn't just happen overnight either, right? Like the 9 months that you're talking about, and it takes some time. Tell us a little bit about that journey and that story. What kind of hooks did you have in your brain that stopped you maybe from stepping into it sooner than you did?
Yeah, great question, Debbie. So to give you a little history, from where my fitness passion comes from.
Yeah.
I grew up in high school, through high school, playing sports. I went on to college and cheered at a university. After college, started working at a gym. All this time through my college years and on, I was teaching group fitness classes, and I started getting into personal training. So this passion continued to grow, even though it took different shapes throughout my journey. And I moved down to San Diego in my late 20s. And that's when I still was teaching fitness, but I also got into yoga, which I love because I had been practicing yoga since my early 20s, but to actually teach it was a really neat journey. So I have this like I've always, had since I was in my teens, this love for fitness. And I absolutely love working with people and inspiring them and motivating them. And coaching is such a fun role, especially when you can have music on and dance around. There's not much not to like, but it's really evolved because I've evolved, right? So I, personally, people always looked at me and they're like, "Oh, Lauren, you're so confident. You're so, I love what you do." And they've always put me on such a high pedestal, which is very admirable. But deep down the layers, there is a lot of me that, even though on the surface I felt that way and how I delivered in a class,
Yeah.
when I wasn't showing up on stage in front of my class or in front of people, there was still a lot of work that inside of me that needed to be done. And so when you talk about where there's been a real shift with me, yeah, certain people known me for 10, 20 years thought it was phenomenal then, right? How I showed up in my line of work because of the experience. However, today I feel I show up so much differently for my clients and my audience because I'm really living like my true self, and I'm showing up that I am that confident woman, and I am, when I'm up there leading, I do it with purpose, and I want to inspire women, and I want to help people and show them that even if they've lost their physical body, or even if they feel like they've lost that consistency and there's shame around like, "Oh, but I haven't done this for so long," right? How do I even get started? I like to be able to show them like, "Look, like, let's do this. Like, let me show you how to get started simply, or let's do this together, or like, it can happen," right?
Yeah.
So that's the fun part of the journey today. And the fact now that I get to work more, not just helping people with their physical body, but being able to help them more with the mindset, right? And helping them form those really good habits and really work through some of the things that have held them back in the past from achieving their results.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, I know in the Uber on the way to the airport, we were talking about education, and you lit up about education. And so tell us a little bit about what are some of the things that you do to help educate people on wellness and fitness, and where can people find some of that if they're looking for you?
Yeah, so if when it comes to education, there's kind of two facets of it. I've had the opportunity, one, to work with other instructors in the area over the years and help them, set up and learn the fundamentals, be able to lead their own classes, which has been
Yeah,
really
so
a
you've been
fun
a
process.
mentor.
Yeah,
You've
a
been a mentor.
mentor.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I've done different
fantastic.
certifications and yoga and bar and sculpt. So that's I've always really enjoyed working with other instructors. But then the other side of the spectrum is with my clients. I run now a 12-week program where we do everything from measurements to strength tests. We set goals. Have a consistent schedule every week that they train with me so many days per week. I set them up for their workouts the days they're not with me, whether they're doing it through my app or on their own. And I hold them accountable through the entire 12 weeks. And we work towards their goal together. And it's a lot of fun because it's really shifted the model where I used to, clients would work with me, they'd have hour sessions, and we kind of just do our work in the session, and then they're on their own. Where now I feel I'm able to offer so much more to them because I really am going through that entire transformation with them, start to finish. And it's just a lot of fun because I feel now being able to really connect with people at a deeper level,
Yeah.
tie in a little bit of my spirituality, and things that have worked well for me through my journey. It's really great. It's healing. I'm going to continue doing it because I know it's making a big difference for a lot of people.
I'm glad you're going to continue to do it. Now, you talked about spirituality. Tell me a little bit, like, how would you define faith, and how would you say faith has played into your journey of stepping into, this woman that you know yourself to be?
Great question. So, for me, when I talk about faith, for me, it ties back to my love for God, Jesus Christ, because I first, in high school, had my experience through a program called Young Life.
Yeah.
And that was when I first was introduced to the Christian faith and asked God into my heart. And it was this wonderful, wonderful experience because I wasn't raised that way. So it was something I found on my own. I had this yearning. I've always had this belief that there was something greater than just myself and us on earth, right? Yeah. But my faith has always been there with me. It's had its ebbs, its flows. It's where I've had a close relationship with God and not as close with God. But we've talked about some of our parallels in the last few years, and sometimes when you go through some bumps in the road, right?
Yeah.
You have to really get clear on where you are in your life, what you want in your life. And for me, also, it's like turning to God and asking, like what are the next steps, and how do I follow through with this? So going back to the business part, even with this, doing new things with my business, carving a new path, and having, first of all, the desire behind it, but the belief that it's possible, right? The belief that if I want it bad enough, I put the work into it, it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So faith to me kind of has two things. And I don't always, when I work with clients, I'm not necessarily always, speaking to them from a Christian standpoint and my faith in that regard. But I do think what's really great about faith is whether you have a religious belief behind it or whatever, with God, source, spirit, whatever it is that you can relate to, but knowing that when you have that faith and belief behind it, that things are possible, right? Yeah. So I think that comes when I work with my clients, is helping them, show them that like, you can do this, right? Like, and helping them, maybe it's helping them build that belief right at first, and then being able to carry it once they start to see it in themselves, which is, again, such a great process and so much fun to do.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like too, Lauren, I mean, we both come from the same business coach, so you'll know who said this, but, I hear Amira tell us, if we don't have belief in what we're doing, it takes some of the belief she has in us. Right. And so my guess would be, as leaders, I know I've ran into that numerous times where I've had to say to people, I can't wait for the day. I tell my clients this all the time. I can't wait for the day for you to see yourself through my eyes and have that belief that you can step into this. And I'm sure, well, let me ask you, how does that manifest itself in the work that you do with your clients?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you nailed it on the head. I mean, that's it, right? Because when I first meet with clients, of course, I talk with them, we find out their goals, and we kind of assess their needs. So first, to make sure I'm the right fit.
Right.
But then based on my experience working with women, based on my experience in my own self and my journey, knowing, being able to assess and say, and be able to see, like you said, and then like, this is possible. You're now, you have to do it a certain way, and you're going to have belief that it is possible in yourself, right? But until you're there, just follow my lead, right? Yeah. If I ask you to do something, right, and I'm telling you by doing this, it's going to help benefit you towards the goals that we discussed, then you're going to have success, right? And I love that so much. And sometimes they do. That's why for me, when I do personal training, they are making that, their commitment to me and trusting in me that I'm going to help them get there. So they're having faith in me right off the bat, right? Yeah. That I'm going to help them until they have the faith in themselves.
That was a good come around back to the faith conversation. Nicely done, Lauren. I need to have you come help me with my podcast.
Love it.
So tell me, as we kind of wrap up here, what I want to find out, if you could give one truth bomb to leaders, successful men and women across the globe, about leadership and how important health is. Like, that's my big mantra this year, is being healthy. We can't do the work that we want to do if we're not healthy. And so what would be one big truth bomb that you would say? I'm going to drop the mic after I say this, but I'm going to ask you another question. But
So this is the deal. As a leader, we grind, right? And it doesn't mean we don't grind and enjoy what we're doing, but we get up early, we stay up late, we, sometimes work on the weekend. Sometimes, as you share, we're skiing, right? We're doing things we enjoy. But at the end of the day, in order to be a successful leader, we have to put in the work. So to put into the work, we need to have energy. We need to have a good night's sleep. We need to be eating the right foods. We need to be exercising. It's so important for us as leaders to show up that way. And if we don't take care of our health, and if we're not treating our physical body the same way, we're putting the effort into our business, there's going to be a tipping point, right? Yeah. And so it's so important, especially think about today's world, maybe even before we were working from home, right? Yeah. Behind a computer. I mean, a lot of business professionals I know are behind a computer 8+ hours a day on Zoom or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So how are you going to create? How are you going to put the right foods in front of you? Because if you don't have the time to cook, did you prepare healthy meals? Right?
Wait, I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Plan ahead.
Plan ahead, right?
Yeah.
And where's your time during the day? Where'd you schedule your workout? Are you doing it before work? Are you doing it lunchtime? Are you doing it after work? More likely probably to have success before or lunch. Sometimes later in the day, things come up, meetings come up, and then before you know it's 9 o'clock at night. So how are you going to hold yourself accountable to that, right? And even if you are sitting, maybe it's between the calls, stand up, right? You have water at your desk, you're hydrating, right? So self-care is super important. And it even goes outside of, working out and exercise, but, doing things, find those times to pause, to reflect, to meditate, to read, massage, whatever it is that you gravitate towards, is really finding those opportunities to stay healthy, so you don't get into the burnout and spiral.
Well, Lauren, thank you so very much for being here and sharing this valuable information, because many of you listening are going to hear more segments about health, and not just physical health, but a big piece of that is around physical health, because I am a firm believer that if we're not taking care of ourselves physically, that we can't step into this work that we're called to do. And so I so much appreciate where you're at, Lauren, and what you're doing in the world. And if someone listening to this wants to connect with you and, potentially have you be a trainer for them or get on your 21-day challenge, how would somebody get in touch with you?
Yeah, so Body by Lauren is my brand. My website is BODYBYLAUREN. It's also my Instagram handle. You can find me also on Facebook by Lauren Griffith. So those are all great ways to reach out and connect with me. And I always offer a complimentary consultation.
Fantastic. Well, Lauren, thank you so much. And for those of you listening, if you would like to connect with me, you can find me. It's all spelled out, 3V as in Victor Consulting.com. And I would love to speak with you too for 30 minutes. Follow us on Facebook, and these will be downloaded into iTunes and Spotify and YouTube. So we hope to see or have you listen to us. And thank you so much again, Lauren, for being with us, and everyone have a fantastic day.